The following program is an Animal House radio production.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, for the past couple of weeks, you may have been hearing this on the show.
This is George Noory of Coast to Coast AM reminding you to listen to Animal House Radio on Friday, December 5th to hear me along with Aaron and Dr. Mike for the special 6th Sense edition of Animal House Radio.
Now, obviously, George Noory, host of Coast to Coast AM, is not someone that people don't know. This guy is huge. He is, once again, in the radio industry, he's bigger than the Beatles. The Beatles were the Beatles. I'm telling you, I listen to him constantly. He is amazing. Coast to Coast AM is an amazing program. You can hear it online. You can visit them online, Coast to Coast. And George Noory is going to be on the show December 5th to talk a little bit about the Sixth Sense, what animals can do, because there's a lot of very interesting facts. But our good friend George Noory from Coast AM is actually having a new series that premieres this Sunday on the Sci-Fi Network. And on the line right now, I believe from St. Louis, George Noory of Coast to Coast AM. George, how are you, buddy?
I'm fine, and actually just landed in Los Angeles.
Oh, L.A., the second week in a row. Second week in a row, someone from Los Angeles is on the air with us.
I escaped what is going to become new winter weather in St. Louis.
Okay.
That's how I timed it. Everybody asked me, why do you go to St. Louis and L.A.? And I said, get a calendar and ask yourself that the next time I go.
Well,
and
yeah.
So I missed the winter in St. Louis, and I come back to L.A. when it's warm.
Well, why don't you come to the winter in Toronto, and then we can talk about how bad St. Louis is.
Love Toronto.
Love Toronto. And you know what?
City.
Canada, we've been getting tons of emails. People cannot wait for your appearance on the program on December the 5th. It's going to be a great show because there's a lot of stuff. And I've listened to your show for years, you and Art Bell. And you know what? There's a lot of things that you guys discuss in terms of animals and stuff like that, and it's going to be great.
I love animals. I really do.
Oh, no.
Matter of fact, we're talking about some of them on the Sci-Fi show sometime next week during the Monster Show. These are animals you don't want to take home.
Oh, no, exactly. Now, obviously, on Sunday, November 16th, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you have a show about reincarnation on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Absolutely. Reincarnation, witches, UFOs, monsters, and then myths and legends. 5 different shows during the week, starting on Sunday night, as you just said. But the reincarnation show is one of my favorites because it has to do with a little boy who was 6 or 7 years old at the time, and he kept telling his dad about a World War II plane that he was in and how he was shot down and how he died. And the father thought it was a vivid imagination of a boy until he realized he never watched any television shows about this kind of plane. It was called a Concorde. The tires used to blow up upon impact. Only the little boy knew that. And then pilots from World War II, they knew that. And so the father started doing some more research, and he said to himself, what the heck is going on here?
Wow.
They took him to a therapist, and the therapist is convinced that he's reincarnated.
Wow.
It's an unbelievable story.
Now, tell me more about, on Monday's episode on the Sci-Fi at 11 o'clock, witchcraft, because this, I've always had this thing with the Ouija board, and I've always had this fear of touching a Ouija board, and I hope you're going to talk about that in witchcraft.
We don't talk about the Ouija board, but we do talk about the curses of the witches.
Oh.
And we've got a witch on by the name of Fiona Horn, who doesn't look like your conventional witch because I guess she posed for Playboy years ago. And
I have. Oh, Miss February. Oh.
She's not what would have come out of the Wizard of Oz. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. So that's and you know what? Coming back to your monsters episode, which is going to be on Tuesday, the Loch Ness Monster. Now, my mother's from Scotland. I've heard many stories about good old Lockie there and the Loch Ness Monster, and especially in New York as well. I think it's Lake Champlain.
Yes.
That's going to be a very interesting show. I've actually PVR'd that show.
Is your mother a believer in Loch Ness Monster? Nessie?
Yes, Nessie. She is a believer that there is something around that we haven't found, and that for some odd reason technology has not advanced to the point where we can actually find these things.
Yeah, I think she's right.
Yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, it's the same thing when you talk about UFOs and legends, and they all come from somewhere. And it's the same thing with our faith in a God or something like that. We all have different faiths, we all have different things, but we all believe in something higher than what we are right now, which kind of all brings everybody together, saying, you know what? Maybe there is something more to us because we all believe in that, regardless of religion and regardless of these things. UFOs, 20 years ago, there was a huge debate. Today, I don't think there's a debate. Today, I honestly believe with you, and I believe with a lot of your listeners out there, that, you know what, we have landed. We have met people from another dimension, another planet. I completely believe that we have.
It's just a matter of time when disclosure comes. But it's not going to come from government. It's going to come from dedicated insiders who say, finally, once and for all, I've had enough of this. I'm putting my neck on the line. I'm going public with this.
Yeah.
And that's when it's going to happen.
You know, when listening to Coast, you hear certain individuals who are in the military, certain individuals who've been around during Roswell and Area 51, who swear by it, that they've actually saw it. And these are amazing things when you hear it. And even going back to witchcraft and reincarnation and monsters and creatures and UFOs and legends and lores, there are so many things. And I can't stress to anybody listening right now in Canada, the United States, tune in next week, starting Sunday, on the Sci-Fi Channel, on Dish Network, DirecTV, your local cable. Call them up. Get this channel, even if you don't have it. At 11 p.m., you have to watch this show. You have to listen to George Noory on Coast to Coast AM. George, you're fantastic. You've got a huge fan base here in Canada and in the United States. The show's heard all across everywhere in the world. You're just an icon in radio. And I got to thank you for being on the air. But before you leave,
all right,
we have a little section and a little segment on our show called Fact or Fiction. And we're putting you on the spot right now because if you answer this question correctly, Nicole Perez of Los Angeles will win herself a scoop-free system courtesy of Scoop Free, www.scoopfree.com. Well, let's hope you win too. So here's the Dr. Mike with the Fact or Fiction question.
Hey, George, how are you?
Hey, Doc, how are you?
Good, thanks. Okay, here it is.
All right.
Calico cats, which are cats that are black, white, and orange, 100% of them are female. Is that fact or fiction?
It is fact.
And he is right.
Nailed it. George Noory nailed that answer. George, thanks to you, Nicole Perez of Los Angeles has won herself a scoop-free system, courtesy of our good friends at Scoop Free, www.scoopfree.com. George, I cannot wait to December 5th, and I cannot wait till this Sunday on the Sci-Fi Network and all week to watch George Noory to watch Unexplained with George Noory on the Sci-Fi Channel starting at 11 o'clock. Eastern Standard and Pacific Time. You can go check it out. Remember, call your cable company if you don't have the Sci-Fi Channel. It's going to be great. I can't wait to PVR that and watch it live. It's going to be fantastic. George, thank you so much. Have a great time in L.A. Coach George, go check out a hockey game while you're down there.
You got it.
Okay, but we'll see you December 5th.
You got it. Bye.
Host of Coast to Coast AM, George Noory on Animal House Radio. The guy is amazing. And you know what? He just won a scoop free for one of our listeners in Los Angeles.
That's great.
That's George Noory, host of Coast to Coast AM. Please, Adriana, thank Mr. George Noory for us because absolutely amazing to have George Noory on the show. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Noory.